ahead and switch our gears back to our pinpoint weather. This is a live look from our Arlington camera in South End. Not a cloud in the sky. We love to see those Carolina blues. A gorgeous day out there. Get out and about and do whatever you got to do outside because you are running out of time as we head into the weekend. Bringing in Chief Meteorologist Tara Lane now. We just heard in that press conference from South Carolina and the governor there. They're really focusing on storm surge right now.
Right.
And that's a big concern for the coast.
And that's because the track continues to shift a little more to the east.
Yeah.
And so that would put it possibly maybe a little bit of a time over the Atlantic Ocean. And yes, continue to push in some of that water and along our South Carolina beaches as well. And we'll have to eventually watch up through North Carolina too.
Yeah.
But yes, we do have that storm surge watch and tropical storm watch up through the South Santee River, South Carolina, so south of Myrtle Beach, and does include the beaches near the Charleston area. Let's look right now, Port Richey, Florida. You can see the clouds overhead, and they have already been getting, of course, those waves of rain out ahead of this large storm, even though you can see as we look back here at radar, the center of circulation, look at that so well-defined eye of the storm here. Category 3 is moving away from Cuba, so it's still pretty far away here from, say, the Tampa area where we're looking at that projected landfall or just south of there. But yes, you can see those far outer rain bands stretching up to the north. Meantime, closer to home, we're under the influence of high pressure, the opposite situation here. And that's, of course, bringing us beautiful weather, lots of sunshine. And we're starting to see in the distance, so maybe some of you are noticing this, some of those high-thin cirrus clouds. And we do have a front still right there along the coast, but you can see just how large of a storm it is, that swath of cloud cover. Eventually, we will get more of those hurricane cirrus clouds, those outer cloud bands moving through over the next couple of days as that tropical moisture gradually increases before the rain starts. And it looked like still mostly on Friday. Let's take a look at temperatures. Feeling pretty nice outside. A little bit of a cooler day compared to the 80s of the past couple of days. We do still have some areas around 80 degrees there off to the east, but most of us sitting in the 70s, even low 70s up there in Hickory and up through Statesville, 73, and the cooler 58. Look at that showing up in Jefferson. So tomorrow, another dry day. Tomorrow is when the wind starts to get a little breezy out of the north-northeast, 5 to 15, some higher gusts around 20 miles an hour. And again, you can see those temperatures staying on the cooler side for afternoon highs, only in the upper 60s to low 70s. Mountain forecast, we start to see the rain moving in later on Friday, Saturday and Sunday, often on rainy conditions, as we've been talking about. And again, another big part of the story here for the next few days is just how much cooler it's going to be for this time of the year. And you can see, as I said, the clouds start to move in from the south, gaining on our region first through the day on Thursday. Thursday morning especially, still looking primarily dry. We may have some light rain, some sprinkles starting to filter in by the end of the day on Thursday before the widespread heavier stuff moves in Friday into Saturday. So Hurricane Ian, again, Category 3, powerful hurricane moving north and away from Cuba at only about 10 miles an hour. So it's still moving pretty slowly. And you know what? That forward motion is going to slow down even more. And that's what's really hasn't changed in the forecast track. Even though it's overall shifted a little bit to the east, we're still looking at that slow motion for folks along parts of the Florida Gulf Coast, which can mean that prolonged period of storm surge flooding, heavy rain, wind, possibility of tornadoes. And it moves across the peninsula, possibly takes that quick trip over the Atlantic Ocean, and then becomes a much weaker system by the time that remnant area of low pressure moves in to the Carolinas region. So ahead of the possible impacts here coming up for the weekend, as I said, storm surge watch in effect for parts of the South Carolina coast, south of Myrtle Beach, down through the Hilton Head Island area, tropical storm watch in effect as well. And you can see just that push of moisture moving in through the day on Friday, often on periods of rain through Saturday, Sunday, and it may take a while for the system to exit the area, so the shower chance could linger right on into early next week. We do need some rain. The last measurable rain we've had was back on September 12th, but sometimes too much of a good thing. We could see too much of a good thing, and that could lead to some flooding issues, especially when we're talking about some of these totals here, upwards of 4+ inches of rain. So we're looking at the saturated ground, and you add those forecast wind gusts, 30, 35, close to 40 miles an hour. That could lead to some isolated scattered power outages. Let's bring in meteorologist Elisa Raffa right now. Take a closer look at that Florida impact for our friends to the south. Elisa.
Yeah, it is coming in as we go through in the next couple of hours. Colorful map when it comes to the alerts. Tropical storm warnings for much of the peninsula. Hurricane warnings from Tampa down towards Fort Myers. And they've already been feeling the brunt of a tornado watch in South Florida. As some of those, even those outer bands come in, you can get some of the heavy downpours, the gusty winds, and some twisting as well. So they're looking at Category 3 or even maybe up to 4 impact between Tampa and Fort Myers. You can see the major and extreme impact when it comes to the wind as it turns into the peninsula. And then those winds, again, gusty, as Tara's just mentioning, across the Carolinas. Storm surge, also a major concern. This part of the coast is pretty vulnerable to storm surge because of the way that it's shaped. Now, the storm surge impact has shifted a little bit farther south because the biggest impact for storm surge will be just south of where the center is. So it shifts it with up to 12 feet of storm surge possible around the Fort Myers area. It's decreased some for the Tampa Bay area, which again is kind of like a bowl. It's really vulnerable and susceptible to some of that storm surge. Rain also maybe under talked about on line going into the next couple of days as it slows down, like Tara's mentioning, up to 2 feet of rain possible across parts of the peninsula, which will lead to very intense flooding. And then some of that heavy rain gets into the Carolinas. Now, we do know that as our climate warms, we are looking at some warmer water, more fuel for these intense hurricanes. Again, our impacts are through the weekend. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.